Okay, Mayor Latchford, we are ready to go.
Okay. Can you hear me all right on my computer, or do I need to go on the mic?
No, you're fine, Gail. I can hear you okay.
Okay, good. So I'll call the meeting to order at 9:21 a.m. And we've got 1 and 2 done. So during the public meeting portion of the proceedings, the following procedure will be taken for each application being considered. I will announce the application in order as listed on the agenda. Jennifer Current, Senior Planner, will summarize her findings and give recommendations. The applicants will be asked if they wish to add any further information or comments. All participants will be unmuted for this portion of the proceedings. The public will be asked if they wish to make any comments on the application. In order to be recognized by the chair, please approach by stating through you, Madam Chair. I, that's your name, would like to make comments regarding this application. So once I've recognized you, you will be able to speak. So I've called the meeting to order. The first item is the territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land, and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation, with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman is located on the Mississauga Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. The Township of Alnwick-Haldeman respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof, Council?
Yes, Mayor, through you. I wish to be excused for number 7 on the consent applications at that time because of a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Because I own the land.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Latchford, I have someone in the waiting room. Can I let them in?
Sure.
I believe they're having a hard time connecting to the audio, but I do have another caller, so I will let them in as well.
Okay.
They might be the same person. Good morning, caller. Can I get your name for roll call, please?
Yes, it's Valerie MacDonald.
Valerie McDonald?
That's right.
I'll put you on mute, Valerie.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, caller. You're coming up as Mark's iPhone. Can I get your name for roll call?
Mark Hogg.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to put you on mute. Thank you, Mayor Latchford.
You're welcome. Okay, approval of the agenda as circulated. Be it resolved that the municipal planning meeting agenda of Thursday, February 24th, 2022 be approved as circulated. And I would just like to add, due to the bad weather last week, everybody couldn't get here for the meeting due to flooding, etc. So we do have a few regular items on this agenda. We don't have any addendums, do we, Susan?
No, we do not, Mayor Latchford.
Okay, I'll call for the motion then. Can I have a mover, please? Jim, second. Councillor Booth? All in favor? Carried. Approval of the planning minutes as of January 27th. Be it resolved that the municipal planning meeting minutes of Thursday, January 27th, 22 be approved. Mover? Okay, I got two here and two away, so. I had Counselor Booth first and Counselor Phil. All in favor? Carried. Item 6, this is the motion to adjourn to our Land Division Committee of Adjustment. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman, being a Land Division Committee of Adjustment, adjourn to a Land Division Committee of Adjustment meeting for the purpose of hearing consent applications at 9:26 a.m. Okay. So item 7, our first one is, and Councillor Hogg is leaving. He has a conflict of interest on this one. Mark Hogg, his son, will be the agent. Okay, Jennifer, are you ready to walk us through that one? Sherry?
Just
Oh,
through you, Mayor Latchford, do we need a motion to move
yeah.
on? Okay, so I'm happy to make that motion.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Now we'll move on to item 7, starting with the Hogg's application.
Through you, Mayor Latchford. This application is an application that pertains to property located at 12708 County Road 24 in geographic Alnwick. It's located in part of Lot 23, Concession 3. The property is located on the north side of County Road 24. The application, the proposal is to sever a parcel of land for the creation of a 9.6 hectare new vacant rural lot from an existing 55 hectare property. The severance sketch was included in the report. It's located, on the north side. The property's approximately 620 meters from the Township of Alnwick, Trent Hills municipal boundary. In my report, I had incorrectly identified the Crammy Township municipal border, but in the northern portion of our municipality, we border Trent Hills. The property is developed with a single detached dwelling, 2 livestock barns, which are located in the southeast corner of the property. The severed lot is going to be taken off of the west side of the property. There are approximately 3 hectares in the northwest corner of the property that remains forested. Other than that, the property has been cleared and is actively farmed. The on-site livestock barn houses approximately 50 beef cattle. Surrounding land uses are almost exclusively large agricultural properties, with the exception of 1 property immediately across the road from the house on the subject property, which was subject to a previous severance application. Livestock barns were identified at 12572 County Road 24, 12462 County Road 24, and 396 Glenron Road, and 12838 County Road 24. So there are a number of livestock barns in the area, and this is an active agricultural area. Drope Road is a seasonal road, and it's located between lots 22 and 23, Concession 3, forming the western boundary of the subject property, and it will form the western boundary of the proposed severed lot. The property is located in an area, a rural area of the municipality. The provincial policy statement allows for severances in the rural area that are locally appropriate and compatible with the rural landscape. The creation of almost 10 hectares. So it's a fairly substantially large sized rural lot. However, given the size of the other lots in the area, it's actually quite small. Compliance with the minimum distance separation requirements is mandated by both the provincial policy statement and the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan. MDS calculations were prepared for all of the livestock barns within the area, and MDS setbacks. So the MDS setbacks were calculated, and a map was created illustrating the impact of the MDS setbacks, and was included in the report as figure 2 to the report. And figure 2 illustrates with circles the required setbacks, and it demonstrates that there is one minor encroachment onto the proposed severed lot from a livestock barn located immediately west of the subject property. However, there is sufficient area on the proposed severed lot for the location of a dwelling without encroaching on that MDS setback. In their comments, Lower Trent Conservation commented that there are no natural hazards located on the subject property, and there are no natural heritage features on the property. And while there are no natural heritage features on the property, there is an off-site watercourse on the property immediately to the west, and the setback from that encroaches very, very minorly on the subject property. However, that's the retained property, and it would have no impact on the proposed severance. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, so that has no impact on this application. Northumberland County official plan, the property is located in the rural areas, which permits severances subject to complying with the local policies in the township official plan. As I mentioned earlier, the township official plan, the property is designated rural on Schedule A, and severances are permitted in the rural designation, provided they comply with all of the other land division regulations or policies contained in the OP. The proposed severed lot would be considered a small hobby farm use and is permitted in the rural designation. New lots in the rural designation are required to comply with MDS, which I discussed earlier. MDS calculations were prepared, and there is a sufficient building envelope on the proposed severed lot. This is a very active agricultural area in our municipality, and it is important that we make sure that those agricultural uses are protected. Section 4 of the official plan contains land division policies for the municipality. Plan of subdivision wasn't required, only one lot was being created. Section 4.2.1 of the official plan requires that lots have frontage on a maintained municipal road. And while the proposed severed lot would have frontage on County Road 24, Northumberland County has indicated that they would not be able to issue an entrance permit onto the county road at that location, given sight lines and traffic and everything else. So the property does have frontage on Drope Road, an unopened municipal road. In order to get an entrance onto Drope Road, the owner would be required to upgrade a portion of Drope Road to a full municipal standard. It would then be assumed by the municipality, and they could have an entrance onto that newly constructed road. The costs associated with that road upgrade would be completely at the cost of the applicant. Like the provincial policy statement, the official plan policies require proposed lots to be appropriately sized. The property is about almost 10 hectares. Northumberland County Septic Inspection Services reviewed the application and has no concerns with respect to the ability to service the subject property. There have been no previous severances from this property since 1990. The proposed severance complies with the policies set forth in the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan. The property is zoned rural on Schedule A to the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman zoning bylaw, which the rural zone permits a wide range of uses, including single detached dwellings and agricultural uses with a minimum lot size of 5 hectares. Both the proposed severed and retained lots comply with the rural lot frontage and size requirements, so no zoning bylaw amendment will be required as a condition of this consent. The application was circulated to Public Works, who commented that the applicant would be required to enter into an agreement with the township to upgrade a portion of Drope Road to provide an entrance. Lower Trent Conservation, I mentioned their comments earlier. There are no natural heritage features or natural hazard functions on the subject property. Northumberland County had no concerns. They did note that they would not allow for an entrance onto County Road 24, and they did request road widening as a condition of consent. So that's to ensure a 15-meter road allowance as measured from the center line of County Road 24 along the frontage of the retained parcel for road widening purposes, and a 1-foot reserve along the county road to ensure access to the county road is restricted. Alderville First Nation responded that they had no issues with the proposed application, and Bell Canada responded that they have no comments with regard to this application. Public circulation went out on February 4th. I have received no comments on this or questions about this application. So this application would create a new rural lot in a rural agricultural portion of our municipality. MDS was reviewed and there is a suitable building envelope on the proposed severed lot. The application maintains the intent of the township official plan and is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The recommendation is that the application be approved subject to the conditions that are set forth in the report.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Mark, do you wish to speak to this? Your application? No? Okay, anyone from the public wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none. Council, do you have any comments or questions? None? Okay. We'll call for the motion then. Jennifer, do you want to read this recommendation for the motion?
Certainly. The recommendation is that application AH01/2021, sorry, yes, it is. It should be 2022. I apologize. By James Hogg to sever a parcel of land for the creation of a new vacant rural lot in part of Lot 23, Concession 3, Geographic Township of Alnwick, is hereby approved subject to the following conditions. 1, that a registered survey for the severed parcel be submitted to the township. 2, further to the printed plan of survey, a closed polygon vector file of the part boundaries shown on the reference plan is to be provided in spatially referenced Autodesk DWG Windows readable format to the satisfaction of the township. It is recommended that the applicant's Ontario land surveyor consult with the County of Northumberland GIS section to confirm acceptable standards and formatting. 3, that a draft transfer for the severed parcel be submitted to the township. 4, that the tax account for the subject property be paid up to date. 5, that the $10,491.46 development charge for the severed lot be paid to the township of Alnwick Haldeman. 6, that the $1,500 cash in lieu of parkland fee be paid to the township of Alnwick Haldeman. 7, that the applicant shall lay out and dedicate to the County of Northumberland a strip of land ensuring 15 meters, 50 feet from the center line of County Road 24 along the frontage of the retained portion for road widening purposes to the satisfaction of the County of Northumberland. And 8, that a 1-foot reserve along the frontage of County Road 24 be provided to Northumberland County to prohibit future access to County Road 24.
Okay, could I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Councillor Philp. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we can let Jim back in, please. We'll move on now to application AH02 2022. Ian, Gloria, and Claire Phillips. Concession 8, part of lot 11 and 12, Haldeman, recreation of a rural residential lot. So Jennifer, you can walk us through that one as well.
Certainly, through you, Mayor Latchford. Application AH02-2022 is an application to create a 0.66 hectare rural residential lot along the frontage along Wicklow Beach Road. The property is located at 131 Wicklow Beach Road. It's on the north side of Wicklow Beach Road, and on the south side of Wicklow Beach Road in this area is Lake Ontario. It's in very close proximity to the Wicklow boat launch. The entire subject property has an area of approximately 68 hectares. So the retained lot will have an area of 67.45 hectares. So it's a very large property. The 68 hectare property is heavily forested. It's located on the north side of Lakeport. I think it's Wicklow Beach Road in this area. The property is developed with a single detached dwelling and 2 accessory buildings, which are located in the southwest corner of the property. There's a water course that flowing into Lake Ontario that bisects the southeastern corner of the property. There's a large culvert that goes under Wicklow Beach Road and drains into Lake Ontario in that area. The Wicklow boat launch is located southwest of the subject property, and surrounding land uses are predominantly large forested properties. There are 2 vacant rural residential lots located in the southeast corner of the subject property that were previously severed by the municipality. And the proposed severed lot will be located immediately east of those severed lots. There's a provincially significant wetland that has been identified on part of the subject property and parts of surrounding lots. Jubilee Beach Park, a seasonal campground, is located west of the property, and the Canadian National Railway and CP Railway corridors are located immediately north of the subject property, forming the northern property line. The property is designated rural in the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan, and parts of it are also designated provincially significant wetland. Severances are permitted in the rural designation, subject to complying with all of the other official plan policies, one of which, as we discussed earlier, is minimum distance separation. A livestock barn was identified at 275 Lakeport Road, and an MDS calculation was prepared, resulting in 113 meter setback from that livestock barn. And the proposed severed lot is located 378 meters away. So it's outside of the required MDS setback. In their January comments, Lower Trent Conservation noted that part of the Wicklow gravel pit provincially significant wetland is located on the subject property, along with mapped unevaluated coastal wetlands and field verified unmapped wetlands are present on the subject property, along with 2 water courses. So this is an area of the municipality where there's a lot of environmental features and hazards occurring. Now, the proposed severed lot, there is one area on this subject property that is outside of the 120 meter setback from key hydrologic features, because all of those wetlands and water courses would all be considered key hydrologic features and would normally require the completion of a hydrologic evaluation if any development was within 120 meters. This one area of the property is outside of that required 120 meter setback. So this is the one area on that property that they can do a severance without having to undertake a hydrologic evaluation. The growth plan, I just discussed that, sorry. Northumberland County recently adopted official plan amendment number 1, which establishes a natural heritage system. Now that is currently before the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for approval and has not yet been approved. This property has been identified as a significant woodland in that OPA number 1. However, that OPA has no standing because it's not included in the county official plan. And once it's included in the county official plan, it will then have to be included in the township official plan and then implemented into our zoning bylaw. So that was just an information, but we will be seeing comments about the Northumberland County Natural Heritage Plan coming up. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, so the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan doesn't come into effect. The application conforms to the intent of the county official plan, which permits lot creation in accordance with township policies. The property is designated provincially significant wetlands, rural, and environmental protection on the township's official plan. As I mentioned earlier, there are the number of environmental features are the areas that are designated provincially significant wetland and environmental protection. The proposed severed lot is located on an area that is designated rural and is outside of the environmental features on the property. The official plan requires that all lots have frontage on a maintained municipal road. This property has frontage on Wicklow Beach Road, which is a year-round maintained municipal road. Like the PPS, official plan policies require that the new lots be appropriately sized for development. This application has been reviewed by Northumberland County Inspection Services, who have confirmed that it's suitable and they have no concerns with the subject property for the provision of on-site servicing. There have been no previous severances from this property, and the application, the proposed severance, complies with the policies set forth in the township official plan. The property is zoned rural, provincially significant wetland and environmental protection. The rural zone requires a minimum lot area of 5 hectares. The proposed severed lot is much smaller than that, so it will need to be rezoned to rural residential. The application has been reviewed by Public Works, Northumberland County, Lower Trent Conservation, Alderville, and Bell Canada. Manager of Public Works conducted a site visit and confirmed that there is a suitable area for an entrance at a location to be determined by Manager of Public Works. Lower Trent comments, there are a number of environmental features on this property. However, there are no natural heritage hazards or features on the proposed severed lot, and it's outside of the 120-meter influence area for those environmental features. Northumberland County had no objections. Alderville responded that they have no concerns or issues with this severance, and Bell Canada responded that they have no comments or concerns with the application. Notice of the application was circulated to all registered landowners within 60 meters of the property on February 4th, and a sign was posted on the property. At the time that I wrote the report, there were no public comments. I have subsequently received an email from an adjacent landowner who stated they do not have an issue with the severing of the lot as noted above. However, I do wish to ensure that the lot being severed will not encroach upon our property, which is to the west of it. And they provided the legal description. And the proposed severance, you can only sever land that is on your property. So this severance will not encroach upon their property. It does immediately abut the land to the west, but it does not encroach onto that property. So in conclusion, the proposed severed lot is located in a rural part of the municipality. The official plan permits severances in this area. It is located sufficiently far enough away from the environmental features that a key hydrologic evaluation was not required. An MDS calculation was prepared from the neighboring livestock barn, and the proposed severed lot is located outside of the influence area for the MDS. So the application complies with the policies set forth in the Township of Alnwick-Calderman official plan and is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe.
Okay, thank you. Are there applicants here for this application, and do you wish to speak to it? No? Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this application? Council? No? Jennifer, I'd just like you to clear something for me, and I know I'm thinking the green line on the map is the reason that the lot line at the top didn't come straight across to match up with the other two lots.
That is correct. Because
So
if you encroach into that area, that triggers the requirement for a hydrologic evaluation because it's the lot creation within 120 meters of a key hydrologic feature.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you. So we can have the motion now if you want to read that recommendation. I don't think council wants to change anything.
Okay, the recommendation is that application AH02-2022 by Ian, Glory, and Claire Phillips, agent Ian Phillips, to sever a parcel of land for the creation of a new vacant rural residential lot in part of lots 11 and 12, concession B, geographic township of Haldeman, is hereby approved subject to the following conditions. 1, that a registered survey for the severed parcel be submitted to the township. 2, further to the printed plan of survey, a closed polygon vector file of the part boundaries shown on the reference plan is to be provided in spatially referenced Autodesk DWG Windows readable format to the satisfaction of the township. It is recommended that the applicant's Ontario land surveyor consult with the County of Northumberland GIS section to confirm acceptable standards and formatting. 3, that a draft transfer for the severed parcel be submitted to the township. 4, that the tax account for the subject property be paid up to date. 5, that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed parcel pursuant to the Planning Act. 6, that the $10,400 development charge for the severed lot be paid to the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman. And 7, that the $1,500 cash in lieu of parkland fee be paid to the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Booth? Second, Councillor Phil? All in favor? Carried. Item 8, motion to reconvene to the municipal planning meeting. And the motion is, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman, being a land division committee of adjustment, reconvene to the municipal planning meeting at 9:53 a.m. Can I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second, Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried. Item 9, public meeting for zoning applications, and this application is Jody Watt and James Ward, agent Fidelity Homes. It's number Z03-2022, bylaw number 07-2022, concession 3, part of lots 9, geographic Haldeman. So Jennifer, you can take us through that one.
Certainly, through you, Mayor Latchford. Application Z03-2022 applies to land located in part of Lot 9, Concession 3, geographic Haldeman, and is required as a condition of consent for consent applications AH17-2021 and AH18-2021, which were approved by the Land Division Committee on October 28th, 2021. The subject property is located on the south side of Turk Road, approximately 385 meters east of Vernonville. It's a heavily forested property that is currently developed with a single detached dwelling. The two previous severances conditionally created a rural residential lot on both the eastern and western sides of the property. And the lots don't comply with the rural zone, which is why the land has to be rezoned to rural residential. The property is located in a rural part of the municipality. The severances were reviewed during the severance process and deemed to comply with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, as well as the township and county official plan. As I mentioned, the only reason this is coming forward now is it's a condition of consent that the two severed lots be rezoned to the rural residential zone because they don't comply with the rural zone provisions.
Okay.
The lots have an area of 0.42 hectares and 0.47 hectares, and they comply with the rural residential zone provisions. An agency circulation was undertaken. Public Works commented that at the severance stage that an entrance could be provided at both locations. If you remember, the eastern lot, when it was approved, it was one of the conditions of approval is that the applicant enter into a site plan agreement because given some topography constraints, concerns about drainage, and a cross culvert under Turk Road at that location. The school board commented that they have no concerns and Lower Trent has no objections to the proposed application. A public circulation was undertaken and no comments were received. So the recommendation is that the application be approved.
Thank you. Any comments from the applicants? Any comments from the public or questions? Council? Seeing none. Okay, the recommendation is to approve that application Z-03-2022 to amend the zoning on a parcel of land owned by Jody and James Ward, agent Fidelity Homes, legally described as part of Lot 9, Concession 3, Geographic Township of Haldeman, from rural, RU, to rural residential, RR, in the Township of Alnwick Haldeman zoning bylaw 19-2019, as amended, be approved. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Phillip. Second, Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next item is item 10, and business arising from previous minutes, and it's Planning Report 2022-PED08 regarding proposed short-term rental accommodation, and it's a accommodation licensing draft bylaw. So we'll probably have some discussion on this.
Through you, Mayor Latchford, would you like me to go through this or do you just want to open up for discussion?
If everyone's read it, I think we could just open up for discussion. It depends on what council wants to do. What's your preference, council? Anything? Jennifer?
I just want you to know that I did receive an email from Valerie McDonald after the report was published. So if you would like, I can go through that if you would like me to.
Yes, I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with you going through the report. It's just whatever, I'm sure council's read this. Sherry?
I'm positive that everybody's, read it and is understanding it, but since it has generated so much discussion, I think that we should be taking the time and having Jennifer go through it, go through the report anyway, and
okay.
Read the email that was received after the report was written.
That's fine. Councillor Phillip, you're on mute.
Thank you, through the mayor. Yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor Gibson, and I also would like Jennifer to just highlight the letter that she received as to Valerie McIntosh's comments as you go through, to say that something like, this was addressed, and we felt this was something that we'd already looked at, or just to comment on that as you go through, so I have a good understanding of those items. Thank you.
Valerie McDonald. Valerie McDonald, Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer.
Okay, through you, Mayor Latchford. As you mentioned at the January meeting, short-term rental licensing bylaw and zoning bylaw amendment drafts were presented to council for their review and comment. And based on that discussion, council asked that I go back and make some changes to the document, both documents, and I tried to capture what I believe to be council's direction in this revised document. So one of the requests was to remove the reference to Murphy beds and pull-out couches shall be included as a guest room. So I deleted that section. But by doing that, if there is a Murphy bed or a pull-out couch in a living room that can be used as accommodation, it no longer has a parking space requirement. Whether or not that, because we had also discussed including only permitting the number of guest rooms that are permitted as bedrooms. So really, if you have a Murphy bed or a pull-out couch and it's a 3-bedroom cottage, really the accommodation should only be for 6 people. It shouldn't be for 6 people plus the Murphy bed and the pull-out couch, because the septic for the building would have been designed for the 3-bedroom. So that's why it was removed. And that's just one thing I wanted to point out, was that by removing that and not identifying it as a room, they're no longer required to have a parking space for it. We revised section 3 of the draft licensing bylaw by adding subsection 3.6 that says camping with the addition of tents and trailers shall not be permitted on short-term rental properties, just making it clear that you can't camp on the properties. Section 6.3 was revised by changing the time period for receiving complaints, increasing it from 6 months to 12 months. Previously, it said if the township had received and investigated 3 complaints within or issued orders within a 6-month period, the license may be revoked. However, it was increased to 3 complaints over 12 months. There's some discussion items. There was a discussion regarding septic inspections at the January meeting, and it was known if we could require septic inspections, and we can do that as part of the process. Northumberland County doesn't currently have a re-inspection fee. However, they're working on a bylaw or a program that would include a re-inspection fee, and the cost of those re-inspections would be included in the county report. I was talking to Dwayne Campbell, the manager of planning and inspection services for the county, and he said that if it became onerous for the county to undertake inspections, because it's not part of their core mandate, if that became difficult for them to fulfill, we may have to revise how that takes place if we're going to require a septic inspection. There could be an option for requiring an applicant to submit with their license application a copy of their septic report that was issued when they installed the system, that will give their capacity and everything else. And if they don't have that, which some properties may not, then they could be required, this is another approach that we could take, they could be required to retain a qualified septic installer who would prepare a report on their system. That's another option. Taxes.
Jennifer, can they go to the health unit and see when that was last done? Can they still do that?
the county has all of the, sorry, through you, Mayor Latchford, the county has all of the septic inspection records, but some systems I anticipate will be quite old and may not have anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A question was asked regarding short-term rental accommodations and whether they're currently, how they're taxed. A request was submitted to MPAC and they have responded that short-term rentals are classified as residential uses and taxed accordingly. During our previous meeting, I had asked about limited service permitting short-term rentals on the limited service residential zone. And it was requested that I ask the fire chief what his comments on that were. And he said he did not have concerns. However, if it's a license is issued on a property on a short-term, on a limited service, in a limited service residential zone that doesn't have, that it's a private road, then the license should indicate that the property is on a private road, and emergency services may not always be possible given the condition of the road. So then we get to the financial impact. It's this, basically, this is the same sort of discussion previously. We're going to have to pay for advertising for public meetings. We can charge licensing fees. Originally, it was the fees, I think, were, the council felt they were a little, they were low. So the proposed fees are based on Huntsville's, and it's a tiered fee. There's one fee of $500 for if you're using your primary dwelling as a short-term rental, and another fee of $750. These are proposed $750 if it is a secondary dwelling. And it's determined whether or not it's your primary dwelling by whether or not that's where you receive your tax bill. Enforcement of the licensing and zoning bylaw will require staff time. Complaints will have to be investigated and addressed. Right now, the township's chief building official is also a bylaw enforcement officer. With the addition of short-term rentals, licensing and regulation, there may need to be an increase in staff time dedicated to bylaw enforcement. Public comments. This is a review of issues that were brought forward. There are concerns regarding access to deeded waterfront, parking, crowds, dogs at large, violence, loss of affordable housing, increased demand for bylaw enforcement, requests for density restrictions and separation distances. I've also received comments from a short-term rental operator with concerns and that discussions have been focused on complaints regarding short-term rentals and have not addressed the positive aspect of short-term rentals. Comments were provided by Rick Hunter, and one quote is, in a municipality such as Alnwick-Haldeman, there are many benefits to accommodating vacation and short-term rentals, due in part to lack of available alternate accommodations. These include providing accommodation opportunities for tourists and travelers, and support for other commercial enterprises, restaurants, grocery stores, attractions, etc. They provide an opportunity for residents outside to enjoy the natural amenities of the township, whether it is to enjoy a lake view or boating, the rural landscape, hiking, ATV trails that they would otherwise never be able to enjoy. We have provided accommodation to workers from out of the area who are working on specific work projects within in the township and county in order to have nearby accommodations. Short-term rentals. Anyways, you can read the quote. So they're a short-term rental operator, and they have a copy of their email is provided in the report. They also did correctly point out that many of the concerns with respect to short-term rentals, noise, parking, etc., there are other ways the municipality can regulate them. And they're just hoping that any licensing or zoning provisions that are passed are transparent and fair. And I think that the draft provisions that we have are transparent, and it is a fair system. So, excuse me, next, sorry, I got an email from Valerie McDonald, who reviewed the draft report, and these are her comments. And one, there appears to be nothing that speaks to limiting how physically close residential neighbors to those operating a short-term rental home / cottage business. There needs to be a minimum distance separation requirement, especially for close residential homes, cottages along the waterfronts. This is something that I believe she presented at the first meeting. I think it will be difficult in some areas to differentiate. It will be very cumbersome for the municipality to calculate. If we get an application for a short-term rental, we're then going to have to do a calculation based on how close that property is, go out, do an investigation. I think it will be more difficult for staff to deal with this. And if you get this, and it ties into the next one, which is about a density requirement for them. I've dealt with this type of calculations before, and first person to the table gets their license, and then their neighbor who may want to rent out their cottage will have to then, you say no to them. And really, I think the issues could still stay with having one short-term rental. The issues are noise, the issues are parking, the issues are congestion, that sort of thing. And I think by getting the short-term rentals down to the number of, first of all, ensuring that they're licensed to only permit the number of people that they're designed to permit, and then enforcing our other bylaws, noise and parking and everything else, that I think we should be able to accommodate it. I'm hesitant with the density and the setbacks because it is difficult and cumbersome to try and administer. So her first one was a separation distance. Her second one was density regarding short terms. Her suggestion was, I suggest if there are resorts already located on a particular street or road, it would not be a place to license short-term rentals. If not, the rentals which are an investment with an absentee landlords be well spaced apart and limited to a certain number per kilometer, for example. Then she's concerns regarding providing them on limited service residential zoning on private narrow roads should not be among the zones to permit short-term rentals, even without an emergency situation, and the size of vehicles that can bring these slender roadways with their upkeep paid by residents along them can be congested. Again, the owner of the short-term rental is also party to that, any road agreements on the roads too. So who is using them is I guess if council wanted to prohibit them on limited service residential zones, that's one thing you could consider. How does the elimination of Murphy beds or pull-out coaches impact parking requirements? Well, we had that discussion earlier, and it was the short-term rentals are going to be licensed based on the number of bedrooms and 2 people per bedrooms. 5, the township needs to have some kind of handle on septic and holding tank usage before granting a license, not just leave it to Northumberland County in its review. Well, Northumberland County is the septic approval authority for the municipality. So we rely on them for septic inspections and approvals, excuse me, one moment, for new residential development. They have the staff with the expertise there to deal with it. So I think that our reliance on the county for that is appropriate. Licensing fees need to be higher than proposed 500 and 750 respectively. 7, that I agree that tents and trailers are not appropriate in short-term rental properties. And that when a licensed premises is sold, the new owner must apply and meet the requirements for a license. 8, the township should have proof of insurance. And 9, what does not in the public interest cover with regard to not granting a license? Then thank you for your consideration, as this bylaw will have a direct impact on your taxpayers' lives and communities in which they live. So that is a summary of her comments. So if council decides to proceed with short-term rental licensing and zoning bylaws, for the zoning bylaw amendment, you're required to have a public meeting. And I would suggest that the public meeting would also include the licensing bylaw. It's just appropriate. So if council decides, then we can present the short-term rental accommodation licensing bylaw and draft zoning bylaw amendment. And there will be an opportunity for more public discussion at that point in time. And previously, I had recommended that if you're proceeding with these, that you hold a public meeting, solicit public comment, and then make a decision at a subsequent meeting to give you time to consider the comments that are received.
Thanks, Jennifer. Comments from council? Anyone have comments? Councillor Booth?
Yes, just a few questions for you, your worship, to maybe Dave and Sarah.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Latchford. Councillor Booth, you're on mute.
Just a few questions through you, your worship, to maybe Dave, the fire chief, and Daryl. It talks about inspections on 5.3. And we're looking at a licensing fee of $500 or $750. So if Dave, one of your guys, had to go out there and do an inspection, or Daryl, you have to do an inspection before the license, are we covering that fee? Are we charging the person for that? And how long would that inspection usually take, Dave?
The inspection would usually take around driving in and out, probably an hour, depending on its location, to 2 hours. Certainly, I wouldn't see anything being more than 2 hours. As far as the fee is concerned, Jennifer would need to comment on that with respect to the history.
With respect to the fees, we met earlier as staff, and I believe fire has $100 inspection fee, and building, we suggested that a similar fee of $100. So of that $500, 100 would be for fire, 100 would be for building, and then the remainder for the licensing process, because it will be run through the clerk's office.
And through you, Daryl, how long would your inspection, would it be about the same or a little longer, or?
I would suggest it'd be about the same. Really, for my inspection end of it, I would be more in the bylaw, the parking and stuff. For now, the building would be fires because it's an existing building. And then if they are in contribution of the fire, then they may have to come back to building for permits and stuff to bring it up. But I would probably suggest that Dave's department and my department will be doing the inspection at the same time together, and we'd be about an hour to 2 hours.
The only
Okay, and another, just a query, it talks about it's the responsibility of any person applying for a license to contact the town for an inspection. So before, maybe you can explain it to me, Jennifer, do they have to be inspected then before they're allowed to rent out to anybody?
Yes, they have to be inspected before they can get their license. So they submit their application, they would submit their application, and then we need to make, rather than us chase them down to try and schedule an appointment, they would need to contact us, and we'll arrange for a time for both Daryl and Dave to go out. That's how I anticipate it happening.
Okay, so do we foresee there could be an issue with, if you had 100 people apply all at once, that it's going to be a staffing thing for Daryl or Dave to get the inspections done?
It could be, and licenses won't be issued until the inspections are done.
Okay, and just one more, and this is to Daryl, and then I'm done. Daryl, maybe you can explain to me what exactly, when the county comes out and does a septic inspection, or some of these properties like on Rice Lake have a holding tank, what does the inspection do? Is it just telling you how many people can stay in the house,
so-
what the septic's built for? What exactly does the inspection tell us?
So like it states in the report, most septics are, when they're designed per bedroom, for two people per bedroom. And that's your daily flow, and then the number of fixtures. So with the county coming, I mean, inspections for these, you don't get re-inspections unless there's a failure, or unless you're doing a change of use, or you're doing an addition or something, adding a bedroom or adding a bathroom or adding more daily flow. So for them to come out and do an inspection, I mean, to my knowledge, when I talked to them, it would be a tank. If we had requested, if there's a failure or something, we requested an inspection, it's going to have to be done on a request basis, because I don't think we can just pull in and ask them to do a septic inspection unless there's we see any problems or there's a failure, right? We can't ask somebody to just dig up their inspection or their septic tank and show us it if there's no failure, because, you know, in my mind, we'd be up for liability if we dig it up and then all of a sudden the septic does fail. Who's replacing that septic? So
in other words, the septic is an option to be inspected
Right.
if there's
And
an
I think
issue, but it won't be part of the initial granting of the license. Is that right, Jennifer?
Perhaps rather than the term septic inspection, we could say septic review, in which the county reviews the existing septic, the septic report from when it was originally installed, to ensure that it would be that it is still satisfactorily sized. Because what I anticipate could happen is that we get a license application for a cottage that says it's a 4-bedroom cottage, and we go out and Daryl does a fire and build and go, yep, you got 4 bedrooms, you're good. But then we get their septic design, and the county reviews it and says, oh, this cottage was only really built for 2. So 2 bedrooms. So I guess inspection is perhaps the wrong word. It should be a septic review of the existing system to see that it is still appropriately sized to accommodate the number of guest rooms that are there. Or on the case of Rice Lake, I think a lot of the cottages there have holding tanks, that the holding tank is the correct size to accommodate the number of building or number of bedrooms. I guess I did not anticipate that they would be going out and digging it up. However, if there is no information on a septic system for a cottage that they're proposing to rent, then it may be that the applicants are then required to have a septic installer go and do a review and provide a report saying what they've got. Because if we've got nothing that says what's there, then is it appropriate to be issuing a short-term rental license if we have no idea whether the septic can handle it?
And that's a very good point, Jennifer, because some of these were built as cottages maybe 40, 50, 80 years ago. And if you drive by Curtis Point, there's some very small things, and they were probably a holding tank. And like you said, it was for 2 people. And over the years that they've got 4 bedrooms now. And if we allow 8 people in there or 6, that could be an issue, right? So
Could be a big issue.
would we deny a license to somebody if we found out that's type of situation, that the septic was only really for 2 or 4 people?
I don't know whether you deny it or whether you the license is issued for 2 people. If it's got the capacity for 2, it should be licensed for 2. It shouldn't be licensed for 6 or 8. I think the way that I see it working.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I got an order here. First, Chief Dawson and then Councillor Phil. You were going to make a comment, Dave? Or do you still need to?
I no longer need to.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Phil?
Thank you. And through the mayor, a couple of things that have twigged my interest. Just to finish off the comments on the septic piece, I think a way to maybe solve that problem is to put the onus on the owner of the septic and on the property to prove the size of their tank. And that way it is not onerous on the township, and that would be one of the precursors to the legislature or to the bylaw. My second recommendation would be, or my second question is about money. I'm taking Councillor Booth's usual position here, but I'm wondering whether the township can afford this bylaw. And so the follow-up question would be, it sounds to me like we have to hire to get an additional staff to help to do the work of this bylaw. And so I am, my first question around that would be, has the staff approached it from that point of view so that we know it's a break-even hire? And if not, what can we expect the additional carrying costs to the township to regulate and ensure that this bylaw is carried out? So I'll throw that question open to probably through the mayor first of all, and then maybe, I don't know, to defer that to Jennifer. But I think we have to look at the total picture and anticipate what that end cost will be to the township, and how much are we covering of that cost of the people that are actually making application. I'm hoping it's a 0-0 situation, but I'm not 100% sure that that would be accurate on my summation. Okay, that's it for me.
Thanks, Mike. And I've had the very same concerns. I don't think the licensing fees are high enough, but at the same time, in the rural areas, this is now becoming the new economic development in cottage country. And, you know, even people who rent their homes or part of their homes just as Airbnbs. And I think as neighbors, with how the septic tanks and holding tanks are on the lakes, have a very legitimate concern, because, you know, if something goes wrong, it can affect their property if they're in too close a proximity. And the other concern is many people coming in aren't used to how a septic and holding tank work. And I know, you know, it's not up to our staff to teach them or us to teach them, but will we require, if it's a holding tank, a certain number of times in the year that tank has to be pumped so it doesn't overflow? And so the costs and the issues, and even if the county is reviewing the septic systems, even though they have that to do, that puts time and money on their budgets as well. So I would like a sort of an idea or a report on, as best that can be done, on the economic development part of this right from the start, because it should pay for itself, not cost the ratepayers. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And even the people who have the concerns aren't saying short-term rentals are bad. They just want something in place that protects everyone. And we have some very good short-term rental owners. They're on site all the time. The biggest concern is the landlords? And do they really know how many people are coming to their rental place? They may rent to thinking they've got 2 to 4 coming, and as the neighbors have said, it's quite a number that show up. So that's an issue as well. And costs. Deputy Mayor Gibson?
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Mayor Latch.
Oh, you're not cutting me off. That's fine.
And I think those are all, you know, I agree with all the excellent points that my colleagues have raised. There's a couple of things I just want to mention because I'm not going to repeat what's already been said. I'm grateful to hear Jennifer say that there will be an opportunity again for public input, because I think that's really important as we move forward. I just wanted to address Councillor Phillip in terms of, and I guess Councillor Booth, in terms of the costing for it. And I think what we also have to remember is that if we don't implement this bylaw, there is also costs associated with having to deal with the complaints that are raised and concerns with the short-term rentals. So it's like we have, and I think it should be fairly a decent cost recovery system, but there's like the opposite side of it too, in that we're already spending staff time responding to those complaints. So the one thing that just does weigh heavy on me, and I think we need to give it really good consideration, is, you know, the limited service roads and the private roads. And are we exposing the township to liability when we grant licenses, when we know that we have a difficult time responding to emergencies on those, in some of those areas? And I don't want to pick on any one road or, you know, say that the one is different than another, but because I'm familiar with it, I'm going to bring up Parker Drive. And that is, you know, that's a difficult road to get fire trucks in and out of. And I guess I just want to make sure that if we're granting licenses for people, for buildings that are on those types of roadways, that we make sure that the people that are renting are made aware of, you know, through the license, that the licensee is made aware that, or we're forcing them to make sure that their renters are aware that there may be limited access for the emergency vehicles. And I don't know if that probably doesn't cover us off, but at least it would, you know, it would provide me with a little bit more assurance and relief.
Thanks, Sherry. And another comment to go a little further with that is you get too many guests parking on those roads. The emergency vehicles may not be able to get through. And on the other side of it, if the emergency vehicles are there, the people who are on that road and living on that road, as one person said to me, they may have to just park somewhere else and walk in until that's all over. So the other option, and those on private roads, you know, some people have talked about this, others certainly aren't interested. But should the municipality bring those roads up to a better standard where we can, those costs could be charged back to the owners on those private roads over a number of years on the tax bills. So they would pay for better safety, better parking, etc. They'd pay a small amount a year until that debt was paid. And I'm not just saying that because of the short-term rentals. I think it's an option that at some point, with so many permanent cottages turning into permanent homes, at some point, a council in the future is going to have to address that. So Any other comments? Counselor Booth?
Just one quick one through you, your worship, to maybe Jennifer. Jennifer, is this this annual fee? So there's an inspection. Would it be an annual inspection every year when they apply? Then next year they have to be inspected again?
Well, when I've spoken to somebody at another municipality that's doing this, and she says that they usually inspect every other year unless there has been a reason for them that would trigger an inspection every year. It's usually an every other year thing. Like they have to apply for their license and they have to pay their fee every year. But unless something has triggered the requirement for an additional inspection, that it's an every other year.
That's good. That'll be a little bit of a relief for staff, because the first year you're going to get hit with everybody. And then if if you don't have to go there every time, unless there's an issue with them and they're a bad tenant or whatever, and you have to go back and do inspections, then at least it alleviates some of the pressure on staff to be doing, an inspection every year. Okay, thank you.
Which also brings in the, this should 6 months be the time frame due to complaints, or should it be 12 months with complaints? It's a guessing game at this stage. Okay. Councillor Hogg?
Yes, your worship. I would like to know how you're going to distinguish between a private cottage owner who is just wanting to rent it out for a family just on a part-time basis and an Airbnb. Are they going to be, will they have to pay a license or fees too, or how will that work? Because this is what some of them are going to be saying, well, it's going to be family that rented it. And it's hard to going to be distinguished with who's family and who's not. And that's my concern.
Through you, Mayor Latchford. If they advertise on a short-term rental platform, they will be subject to the license. If you're just renting your cottage to your cousin or whoever, chances are you're not advertising it on Airbnb or VBRO or Vacation Rental by Owner or any of those other platforms. It's just some sort of a private agreement that you have, in which case, if that's the case and you're not advertising on a short-term rental platform, there won't be a licensing fee. If you're advertising it on a short-term rental platform, as it stands right now, you would be subject to a licensing fee.
I think that's good to hear, because there will be, those comments or questions coming from cottage owners who basically, somebody from the family comes and stays for a few days. They're more like guests. They're not paying, or they leave a little behind. You satisfied with that? Yeah, because I was looking for that in the agreement as well. So that's good. Councillor Booth?
I guess the only issue I would have with that is you have to be very wary, right? I mean, if I'm renting it out to my relatives every weekend, just because I don't advertise it, then I think that might have to be reviewed again, that, I happen to have a lot of cousins or uncles or that, and every weekend I'm, the issue is the noise complaints and everything else. We're not really talking about whether or not it's your family or this or that, but I agree with what Councillor Hogg's saying, that for the one-off, I don't think that's what we're after. We're not after the people that, 2 weekends out of the summer or something, they're letting their family stay there for a weekend.
Yeah. And I would think that that's not what they're interested in anyways, that's their cottage that they go to and they work at it, and they're not interested in rentals. Any further comments? Good discussion. Daryl, you have a point?
I just want to go back to the enforcement on it with council. If council wishes to implement this bylaw, then that's fine. I just want to reassure them that, like any bylaw off the bat, this is going to take some education right off the bat, and it's going to take some time with these people. This is a big business, And there's people that have bought these places for the intent of just that. And we didn't have anything in place, to when they first bought them. So we are going to get some feedback from them as well. Not just the other people that are complaining, but we're going to get feedback from the people that have these as well. But it's going to take some education, and it's going to take some time to get it there. But it's just something we'll deal with when time comes. But we'll have to deal with the complaints until we can get these people educated.
Right. Thanks, Daryl. One other comment I'd like to know, and maybe this falls under the economic development heading. I'd like to know what Hamilton Township, Otonabee, South Monaghan, and Trent Hills are doing. Are they in the process of doing this? Do you know, Jennifer?
Don't know.
No,
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? No,
I don't know.
either.
I do
Because-
know that the town of Coburg has initiated a consultation on it, but I don't know what Otonabee, South Monaghan, Hamilton. I do know that Hamilton Township doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
I don't know if
think
they have started anything, but I don't think so.
With my conversation with Hamilton Township, they have nothing in the works, and they don't plan on putting anything in the works right now.
I don't know about Otonabee, South Monaghan, or Trent Hills. I don't believe they do.
I'm just wondering if it would be worth speaking to their staff.
I have spoken to Hamilton Townships. I will speak to Jim at Trent Hills, and I'll contact Otonabee, South Monaghan to see what they've got.
Yeah, because eventually they're probably going to have to do it as well. Greg?
I would even suggest that's a good point, Daryl, that if this goes through, that the town has some information sessions in the evening that these people that own these properties can attend. And either yourself and maybe the chief and Jennifer would be there, or town staff that could answer questions, because obviously they're going to have questions, right? Especially the first year.
Yeah.
And the town can offer this information to try and at least ease it a little bit, instead of you getting 150 phone calls a day asking questions.
Good point. Okay, anything further on this topic? Okay. Probably need a motion here to receive the information. How do you want that motion worded, Susan? Just that we receive the planning report
I
and
think
the input that we've had? Do you want it something specific or just kind of open-ended?
I think so, as long as there's is there any direction from this? Like we would need direction on what we would need to do moving forward from this.
Okay. Talked about it some what. So the direction, one thing would be bringing it back for public meetings. And should we look at the economic development part of it? I think it would be interesting to know how many we have, how they're, what the costs are. It's new. It's going to be new in the rural area, this type of development.
So,
Sherry?
and Mayor, at some point, and I would think we would want our municipal solicitor to review it prior to the public meeting. So we've got some feedback on the wording. So I think that is, one of the next steps that we need to be considering today.
Okay, so we got 3 items here right now. Okay, So Susan, what I have is, we'll do the reviewed by the municipal solicitor first as number one. Economic development, whatever we can find with that. County might be able to help with that. And to continue with, well, it will be a public meeting with the document, but maybe it would be good to put that in there that the public will be notified and it'll be a public meeting. Anything else you want in, Councillor Phil?
I just wanted to make sure that Jen heard me about the responsibility to prove as far as the septic tank goes, that it's the responsibility of the residents to prove rather than have the have township staff go about that. Thank you.
Septic systems, septic reviews. Okay. All right. Anything further? Can I call for a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks for the good conversation on that.
Thanks to staff for all the time they're spending on this.
Yes, and that's the upcoming time they're going to be spending.
Yeah, and we're in the lead on this. You know, it's sometimes you know, more challenging when you're in the lead on a new bylaw, and I'm sure that there'll be lots of other municipalities that will appreciate the fact that we've taken on this challenge.
Well, and probably a little help if our staff want to contact Coburg if they're working on it. They're a bit different, but they're, you know, they'd have maybe something so that we don't miss an item or tell us what worked and what doesn't for them. Okay, our next item is item 11, and it's the boundary settlement report. And I'll have a motion to get that on the floor. Be it resolved that council report number 2022-PED09 from Jennifer Current, Senior Planner, dated February 24th, Resettlement Boundary Growth Management Report. It says be read and filed, but maybe there's some comments on it. Could I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Councillor Hogg. Okay, is this, want to walk us through this one, Jennifer?
Certainly, through you, Mayor Latchford. An item was forwarded to me as a request from council to review the county official plan update and the long-term needs forecast and the long-term growth forecast and the land needs assessment report. And even before that, I had started this report, so it was very fortuitous timing. Right now, the county is undertaking an official plan update, and as part of that official plan update, they have prepared a long-term growth forecast and land needs assessment, which has established, well, first of all, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe establishes growth targets for all municipalities within the growth plan area. And Northumberland County has been established will likely grow to have a minimum population of 122,000 by 2051, an increase of 30,400 people between 2016 and 2015. The employment forecast is expected to grow to 44,000, an increase of 11,600 jobs. And in order to meet those population and employment projections, the county needs to ensure that there is a sufficient supply of designated land available within the county. Now, the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman is a rural municipality without any urban services, with the exception of the Grafton municipal water supply. Most of both the employment and the population growth, it will be directed towards fully serviced urban developments in the county, which are Coburg, Port Hope, Brighton, Colborne, Campbellford, and Hastings. However, there is some room for the smaller rural areas to grow. And the growth plan allows for minor, they call it minor rounding out of rural settlement areas. So I did it's a very cursory look at our settlement areas. And there were a series of maps that are included in the report. It shows you the established settlement area boundaries included in our official plan for our settlement areas. Most of the settlement areas, there is sufficient, or there are areas within those settlement areas that have not yet been developed and that could be developed. With the exception largely of Grafton, which is mostly built out, with the exception of, we have had three proposals for subdivisions fronting on in the sort of, I call it the southeast corner of the municipality, fronting on Danforth Road, and one extending up to County Road 2. So I know that there are applications currently under review for those three. Not applications, development proposals. We don't actually have an application, but they're undertaking their technical studies. So in Grafton, we have an area on Clitheroe Road. If you go north on Clitheroe Road, there's a couple of large parcels up there that have potential they're within the development area for development. And other than that, there's a small one on County Road 2. And other than that, it's pretty limited. There has been a request to extend the Grafton boundary area to the west on Brimley Road. Now, I included in this report a copy of the Clark Consulting Services report prepared in support of that request for a boundary adjustment. My suggestion is, with Grafton, we have a municipal water supply, and I've spoken with the manager of Lakefront Utilities who operates the system on our behalf, and he has recommended that some water, before we expand our boundaries, we need to get a good handle on what our capacity is for the Grafton water system and whether it's capable of accommodating any further growth. So the suggestion is that the township consider water modeling, and if necessary, a water master plan, because we can't just expand the boundaries of the Grafton settlement area without looking at the implications on the municipal water system. So that's one of the key things, I think, for the Grafton settlement area. The rest of the settlement areas, Rosemeath, there's quite a bit of land that is outside that hasn't yet been built on and is available for development. I have had preliminary conversation with somebody on figure 2 of the report. There's an area that's highlighted with an orange hatched mark. That's an old subdivision that was approved in the 1970s, I believe it was, and the lots actually exist, and the township owns the road, however, or the land on which the road would be constructed. However, there's never been any development. And you'll see at the northern point of that subdivision, there are a couple of water courses that are causing problems with respect to providing access to that development. So this is an area that we have had some preliminary conversations with an owner about developing, and there is more land available within that area. Fenella, similarly, there's a discrepancy right now between our official plan boundary and what's zoned, and that the area on figure 3 is the actual area that's zoned, and the area that is designated is the smaller red line. So when we do our official plan, it's not going to really be a boundary extension, but will just reflect in our official plan what's actually zoned. I don't believe that requires any consultation with the county at this point in time. Figure.
Jennifer?
Yep.
In talking with people in the area, I think there should be consideration for Fenella boundary to go to Packer Road. Just from talking to landowners who are interested, because, you know, in a lot of these places, Roseneath, Fenella, and the smaller places, there's land designated, but there isn't any movement and hasn't been for years and years. So, and, you know, hopefully with Grafton has the most growth and now getting more confined in that growth. It needs boundary extensions. I agree with checking on the water, but I think Grafton boundaries will prove the need to be extended.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Latchford. Packer Road, so Fenella all the way over to Packer Road?
Well, it goes to Bowmanton Road, one side of Bowmanton Road, right? But to Packer Road, there's already set growth on Packer Road.
Yes,
There's lots over there.
I think we would be met with pushback from both the county and the province, because the growth plan allows for what's called minor rounding out. And I think the extension of Fenella over to Packer Road would be significantly more than what is considered minor rounding out of a rural settlement area.
Well, probably it would.
Okay.
It's also, there's very little in there that's really good lands. I don't know, maybe some of it's even on the Moraine. I forgot to bring my Moraine.
Yeah,
map.
it is on the Moraine.
Oh, good. Well, that ends that, but even to extend, there's got to be some from the other side of Bowmanton Road. Is that Oak Ridges Moraine?
Yeah, Bowmanton Road is on the Oak Ridges Moraine, I believe. Just one moment, please.
The northwest side. I can't remember when the boundaries were extended for the settlements in this township. Do you have that?
No, I don't. The township underwent a new official plan in 2015. So the boundary, when they did the official plan in 2015, the boundaries would have been reviewed at that point in time. Fenella is bounded by the Oak Ridges Moraine on both the east and west sides. Yeah. There is one small area north of, sort of north on Roseneath Landing Road that is outside of the Oak Ridges Moraine. And to the south is outside of the Oak Ridges Moraine, but it's bound both on the east and west sides by the Oak Ridges Moraine.
Okay, thanks. I can't remember the boundaries being changed though in 2015.
I wasn't here at the time, so I don't know what they did, but I do know that the way
we updated. We did an update.
The way the growth plan works, yeah, is that only in rural settlement areas, it's minor rounding out that's permitted.
That's almost next to useless for this township.
Well, in Grafton, I think that there is an argument to be made about minor rounding out on Brimley Road because it would utilize an existing water service line that goes up Brimley Road. Right now it's what's called a single loaded road.
Yep.
And if you allowed for development on the other side, then you've got a double loaded road, which is better in terms of development. But we need to make sure that the system has the capacity. So I think there's an argument to be made for minor rounding out and that's the efficient use of municipal resources and all of that in that case.
And I'd like to know also if that water service could reach Barnum House Road. I don't think it's there now. That's Wells, right?
It goes to
Wells.
Brimley Road.
Brimley Road, yeah. But could it go to Barnum House? Not just the one that you've got requested Hamlet expansion.
Yeah, that is just
curiosity. I'd just like to know that if it has the capacity to go to Barnum House Road.
so
Okay.
the other through you, Mayor Latchford, the other hamlets have similarly been mapped on the figures, and you can see that there is basically undeveloped land in all of those hamlets, with the exception of Wicklow and Burnley. But Wicklow is basically a strip of residential development along County Road 2. Lands to the south are designated agriculture, and lands to the north, while they're not designated agriculture, they're under active agricultural cultivation. And at Burnley, there's not much area also, but there's a lot of environmental features around there that would prove to be problematic for future development. So basically,
We have water there.
we have a lot of water there.
We have a lot of water there.
There's a lot of water in Burnley.
That's right.
There's a lot of water in Burnley. So the recommendation, or sorry, the discussion, the main discussion I think that comes out of this is that Roseneath and Grafton are our larger settlement areas. There's land available in Roseneath for future development. Grafton, there is land that is there's some land that's been that is within the settlement area, and there has been interest expressed for an expansion to that municipal boundary. However, it should a review of the capacity of the Grafton water system needs to be undertaken in order to ensure before the council even, I think, considers the boundary adjustment request.
Okay, I'll just throw something else out. A gentleman from Lakeport, a longtime resident there, and I think, I'm not sure at one time if he was a developer, suggested that Lakeport should extend to Wicklow.
Sorry,
Lakeport, if we're looking at boundary changes at some point, that Lakeport should extend to Wicklow. That didn't come from me. I'm just passing that on. And that was
that's not, I don't think that would be considered minor rounding out.
No, I'm not worried about the minor rounding out. I'm saying at some point he suggested that would be where we should also look at growth. I'm just passing the word, so.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Eddie Stone? You want to go to Eddie Stone? You ready to go there, Jennifer?
She frozen?
Looks like it.
You have to go out and come back in. Which is what she's doing.
Through you, Mayor Latchford, Jennifer is just rebooting. She did freeze up there, so.
We figured that out after a couple of seconds. Anyone else got any comments or questions? While we're waiting. Here she is.
I apologize.
That's okay. Happens to me all the time. I just was asking if you were ready to move on to Eddystone and we lost you. You're on mute.
Yep, there we go. Eddystone, it's a small historic settlement area, and there is some land still available within Eddystone that could be developed. Really, not much there hasn't been much except for a couple of severances in Eddystone over the past few years. So really, and Vernonville, there is some land that's outside of that hasn't been developed, but then there are some, if to the north on Vernonville, it looks flat on the map, but as soon as you turn some contours on, there's a big hill to the north. So, and I think it's a good conversation to have with council is the form of development. If settlement areas are expanded, it's important to encourage or ensure that development that takes place is through largely through plan of subdivision, because by permitting scattered severances on land in settlement areas, it makes it difficult to consider or to have those lands then developed by plan of subdivision at a later point. Sometimes you can get a severance or two off of a property and still allow for the efficient use of the land within the settlement boundary, but sometimes it makes things quite challenging to try and fit a subdivision in amongst land that has previously been stripped for severances. So right now, I get my initial review of the settlement boundaries is that there's land in almost all of our settlement areas that could be developed. So there's not necessarily need in those settlement areas. Grafton, it could be subject to water availability, extending the boundary to ensure that the water mains are used to their fullest potential. Could be of benefit, provided it's been demonstrated that our system can handle that. And that will require some water modeling, a water modeling exercise. And I have not included that in my budget for planning for 2022.
Okay. If I can, there's quite a bit of concern from Crammy. I'm talking at the county level now when we're talking. Coburg is out of developable lands, Port Hope is out of developable lands. And so there's quite a bit of concern for the three of our rural municipalities in not being able to go forward as others have. Not that we want to go forward in a big way, but you know, with what's coming from the county, where's Coburg going to expand to? So they can only expand into Hamilton Township. And now Port Hope is buying Wesleyville, so they can go that direction. But again, if they expand, it's again Hamilton Township there in the Lakeshore. So, and we have Hamilton Township between our township and Coburg. So the concerns that were brought up by a couple of mayors were provincial funding and federal funding. And if we don't grow like the rest in these 30 years, how will that funding affect our areas? We won't be eligible for some of the fundings that come out. So, you know, they're not just interested in sitting idle. I won't say any more than that because you know, they have expenses too, so, and whatnot, but it's been quite a conversation with the county over the time, and just want to pass that on. So 2051 is a long time away. Anyways, good discussion. Anything further? Council, anything further on this? So we'll, Sherry made the motion and Jim second. So be read and filed. Is that what you wish?
Yep, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. I'll call for the vote if there isn't further comments. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're moving into some of the things we missed from our last regular scheduled meeting. So our first report is from Fire Chief Dave Dawson, and it's a medical program. I'll read the motion to get it on the floor. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alma-Calderman received the report dated February 24th, 2022 from the Fire Chief regarding the new first responder medical program, and further that the Council of the Township of Alma-Calderman concur with the Fire Chief's recommendation for a new medical first responder program for the Alma-Calderman Fire Department. And further that council pass the necessary bylaw to authorize the mayor and acting clerk to enter an agreement with Lake Ridge Health for the new first responder medical program. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Phil, second by Councillor Hogg. Anything further? Do you want to address it, Dave? Or you have talked to us about it, so.
I don't have a whole lot more to add to the story on the requirement under an NFPA 1720. Just that we'll be heading in the future into further discussion with council about the provincial mandate for mandatory firefighter certification coming into play July 1st of 2022. So this is one of the steps forward that we can make with our medical program to ensure that we can comply and that we are certified. So I thank you very much for bringing it here today.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Our next report, inclusive community grants. No, public works. Got my agenda on one side and my reports on the other side of me. Brian. Brian McMillan, Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation. This is spring load restriction on Turk Road from Shelter Valley Pit to County Road 25. I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman receive the report from the Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation dated February 24th, 2022 regarding the spring load restriction on Turk Road from Shelter Valley Pit to County Road 25. And further, that council concur with staff's recommendation that Turk Road from Shelter Valley Pit to County Road 25 be load restriction free all year round. And further, that the necessary bylaw be passed to allow Turk Road to be load restriction free all year round from Shelter Valley Pit to County Road 25. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Booth. Second, Councillor Phil. Okay, Brian.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Latchford and members of council. Yes, this road and this pit on Turk Road was developed. The road was built approximately 10 years, and the road was fully built to withstand full roads all year round. The township has had restrictions on this during the springtime. The owners of the pit or the leases of the pit have tried or just have started in the last couple of years to reach out to the township to remove those restrictions. So I'm bringing that to you today to remove that restriction. Again, the road is a good road built to withhold trucks during the springtime. There was pavement even at the aprons of coming out onto the pit, onto Turk Road done as well to withstand the turning of the trucks on the road. Again, a pretty straightforward report. I would just ask council to consider this request.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions or comments for Brian from council? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. They'll be happy to hear that, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, council.
Our next report is from Pat Kemp, acting clerk. February 24th, inclusive community grants. Be it resolved that the council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman receive the report from the acting clerk dated February 24th, 22 regarding the inclusive and community grants, and further that council directs staff for to apply for the inclusive community grants. Have a mover, please. Councillor Philip and Deputy Mayor Gibson. I think we need a little discussion here from Pat. You ready, Pat?
Yes, thank you. So this is one of the grants that we became aware of, and this grant is due on March the 3rd, so next week. The inclusive grant is a maximum of $60,000. We do not have to match funds for this grant. The work has to be done between September of 22 and March 2023. So as part of that, it's a grant to align with the seniors and accessibility, and it's to break down barriers, government leading by example, increasing participation and economic for people in disabilities, and improving and understanding awareness and accessibility inclusion. It does take into consideration the World Health Organization and their 8 identified standards. So Jennifer, Steen, and I have been talking about what we could use this grant for. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer and ask her to explain the plan that we were thinking of.
Thanks, Pat. So we discussed applying to develop an age-friendly community needs assessment and action plan, and that's comes directly from the application. It's kind of a first step in what they fund. And so that would define local principles, assess needs, and develop an action plan. And it would focus on social participation, which is one of the 8 age-friendly community domains.
So if council are in agreement, we would like to apply for this grant next week. And this would be the first of many steps to advancing programs for seniors in our area.
And is that a full, would that cost the full 60,000 or are we applying?
We're applying for the 60,000. I'm not sure what the cost would be. I don't know if Jen has that information.
Actually, the grant kind of goes into two ways. Either you're developing the age-friendly community needs assessment and action plan, or you're implementing the plan. Those are the two phases of the grant. So we're in phase one, and the funding for that phase is between 30,000 and 45,000.
Okay.
Is what they support.
Thanks, Jen.
So we'd be applying probably then to the 45,000, up to the 45,000. Is that what you're thinking? Okay. That's good. I didn't realize that. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, the council's wish to do, Sherry?
Yeah, thank you, Pat and Jennifer, and through you, Mayor, maybe to both of you, or just some comment. I guess I'm a little bit concerned that we're embarking on another study when we've had the Parks Master Plan. We've had recommendations back. Some of that has addressed, you know, aging in place and inclusion of seniors. And, you know, is the grant only for the study, you know, or can we actually take one of those recommendations from the Parks Master Plan and say, look, we already know that this is a need in the community. We'd like to apply to complete that project.
I can speak to this, Pat, and step in if you need to. So the grant outlined what they would accept as a needs assessment or an action plan in order to apply for the implementing phase. And it was a strategic plan or an accessibility plan, but it had to outline directly, it had to line up with their age-friendly community, I don't know, points or definitions. And when I reviewed our plans, while they do touch on it, I don't think it was as robust as what they're looking for this grant. So this first phase would be to develop that needs assessment and action plan. And then I would assume we would apply again to implement the plan. I think, and Pat and I discussed that they'd like to see a committee work with a committee to develop this needs assessment. And I think that could come out of the Rec and Culture Committee. It could be a subcommittee of that. So we kind of talked about that as well. But unfortunately, any of the plans that we already have, I don't think would qualify us to go to the implementation phase.
Okay, thank you.
And the one thing we were going to mention too, when we apply, is to make them aware of the plan, like the Parks Master Plan that we've already, and our accessibility plan that we've already put forward. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further? Would you be including some seniors on that subcommittee other than from Parks and Rec, so you get a little bit of a different?
Yes, that's a requirement of the grant. So those committee members would have to fit a certain criteria.
Yep, good. Okay, anything further? Seeing nothing, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. So right now we're going to apply to the max of the 45,000.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Our next report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, is the Rural Economic Development, the RED grants. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Walmart received the report from the acting clerk dated February 24th regarding the Rural Economic Development RED grants, And further, that council directs staff to apply for the Rural Economic Development RED grant, and the decision needs to be under which stream. Could I have a mover, please, to get it on the floor? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Phil. Okay, Pat.
Okay, so the RED grant applications could be submitted between February 7th and March 7th. So again, we have a short turnaround time. This program has two streams. The first one is economic diversification, and the second one is competitive stream. So the economic diversification, it's a non-capital grant. So it has projects that would qualify under it would be entrepreneurship, business retention and expansion, downtown revitalization, technology adoption, service delivery improvement, attraction, retention of workers, immigrants, youths, skill training and development, collaboration, marketing and outreach, and sector value chain development. The second stream is the strategic economic infrastructure stream, and its eligible projects under that would be the rehabilitation of a cultural heritage or tourism attraction, redevelopment of vacant land and underutilized buildings, streetscaping and landscaping. So as part of the finance, the economic development diversification stream is 50% eligible costs up to a maximum of $150,000. So the township share would be $75,000. And the second one is up to 30% of eligible costs for a maximum of 250,000, and our share would be 175,000. So Jennifer again and I talked briefly about what projects we could include on this. We did talk about streetscaping and how we could have along our lamp poles on the major arteries, say in Grafton and Roseneath, where we could put flags up for certain types of seasons. We could put maybe flower arrangements up. And I know, speaking with the mayor, she mentioned, then you have to get into watering the plants, and that could be a cost to the municipality. But we're just looking for council's direction. If you want me to apply for the grant, what would you like me to apply for?
Council? What are your suggestions? Deputy Mayor Gibson?
I wonder, is the Wicklow Church, would that be considered a tourism landmark? You know, the little
heritage.
Yeah. And, you know, because we've talked about the costs of, you know, bringing that up to standard. It may just be something that it's on our radar, and if we can get some costs back for it, we know we've got to move ahead with it.
That's a good suggestion.
Councillor Philp?
Something that's been bandied around quite a bit is trying to provide more services for the Wicklow Beach, which is our busiest drop-off point for fishermen and so on. I'm thinking one of the things that was discussed was to improve that facility, to provide possibly a little eatery of some sort there that could be staffed by some of the kids from our township in the summertime, and make it a little more convenient for the Wicklow boat users, and have maybe a permanent washroom on the other side of that little canteen for people to facilitate. That would be something I think that would blend into the future plans for the boardwalk concept that has been pushed by council and by our CAO for some time now. It might be a good building block for the future.
I like that one too, Mike. It's, I like them both, Wicklow Church and that. They both fit under tourism, heritage, and culture. I like the idea too of the decorative flags. You know, you go through the towns in the US and they boast their towns by the use of flags and flowers and whatnot, and keep them very attractive. I did make the comment that time consuming to travel and draw water for watering flowers. But they would look nice as well. So what do we want to direct staff to look at? All? Yeah. And maybe Heritage has some ideas as well. Other than the church. And I like the idea of that little building in Wicklow and the washrooms and a little seating area that attracts people and our local residents to it. Any further discussion or ideas? Okay. So, Pat, can we apply under both streams or just the one?
We can apply under both streams.
Any other ideas? Councillor Booth.
Maybe an idea, Pat, would be to look at Roseneath and Grafton. I know in the place I lived before in Ajax, they have installed the flags on the pole, but a different type of flag. Instead of having a flagpole sticking out, they have one that is interchangeable. So they have one like at Christmas time that they can put up, and it actually takes Christmas lights. And then in the springtime or near Canada Day, they can switch it over. And that would be the same for Grafton and Roseneath, along with something like the flower baskets. I mean, the flower baskets are nice, but they are very time consuming to, somebody's got to go around and water them.
Okay. So those are some of the ideas from council, and I think if we keep it open too, maybe there's some, do we have other stuff on here, Troy? Good ideas, all of them, and the ideas that Pat and Jennifer presented as well. And so we'll apply under, does council wish to apply under both streams for those projects? Okay, because one will be higher costs than the others, but then we don't know whether we're going to get the grant or not. So the motion would read then at the end, further that council directs staff to apply for the Rural Economic Development Grant under both streams. And we'll see how successful we are. Okay, that was moved by.
Sorry,
So,
are
go
you
ahead,
going to
Pat.
are you going to tell me which of the projects you've just mentioned you want me to go for?
Which one?
So you've mentioned the Wicklow Church, you've mentioned the Wicklow Beach, you've mentioned the decorative flags, and you've also mentioned about Roseneath and Grafton, the flags that are main flagpoles, I guess you would call them.
They're
Not
the ones
your
that,
typical ones.
that are both ends, the
Yes.
top and the bottom have the, like, hold them out. That's what you're referring to, right, Greg?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the priority? Sherry?
Well, I'm going to go back to my idea, not because I brought it up, but I do think that is something that we are, you know, we know that it's something that we're obligated to to make, renovations too. It's going to be a cost to us anyway. The other ones are great projects, but I think they're more on a wish list. So I think if we're going to spend the time, making application to the grant, it should be for the Wicklow Church. So that would be my vote.
Okay. Any other comments?
Agree.
Okay. I like the idea of the flags as well, if we can fit those in. That goes right across the township. And, it's, the eatery is, I guess if you want to say more the wish list, and, Mike's been trying to get that for a while, but, it's a good program too. But if we narrowed it down to Wicklow Church and decorative flags, does that sound fair?
I'm okay with that.
And, in the future, we should have a little homework on the cost of doing an eatery and washrooms at Wicklow, so that we can be prepared for future grants. Are you okay with that, Mike? Yeah, okay. All right, so right now we're going for the first one, Wicklow Church, second, decorative flags, etc. for Roseneath and Grafton villages. Interchangeable flags. All in favor? Carry.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Yeah, can get that. That will be good. People like to see that as well. Okay, our first bylaw is bylaw number 07, 2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 07, 2022, being a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 19-2019 as amended of the Township of Alderman for Jody Watt and James Ward, Agent Fidelity Homes, Concession 3, part of Lot 9, geographic Haldeman, be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Hogg, second. Deputy Mayor Gibson, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 23-2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 23-2022, bylaw number 23-2022, being a bylaw to establish the licensing fees for tourist camps and trailer camps within a recreational commercial zone within the corporation of the Township of Alderman for the fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024 be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. I have a mover, please. Councillor Booth, second by Deputy Mayor Gibson. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 24-2022. Being a bylaw to establish and prescribe fees and charges for services provided by the Township of Alderman for community centers and to provide for interest charges and penalties thereon, be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. Could I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson, Councillor Philip, seconds. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 25, 2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 25-2022, being a bylaw to designate land and premises under the Ontario Heritage Act of Part Lot 16, Concession 3, known as 461 4th Line Roseneath, Township of Alnwick, now in the Township of Alderman, having cultural heritage value and interest, Brown House, be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. Mover? Counselor Hogg, second, Counselor Phil. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 2622. Be it resolved that bylaw number 26-2022, being a bylaw to authorize the signing and execution of an agreement between the corporation of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman and Intellivote Vote Systems, Inc., ISI in brackets, for application software, procedures, and expertise to provide an electronic voting service incorporating voting through secure wireless telephone and internet connections. Bracket the ISI service be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. Mover? Counselor Phelps, second by Counselor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 28-2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 28-2022, being a bylaw to authorize the signing and execution of an agreement between the corporation of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman and Lakeridge Health for the new first responder medical program, be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. Mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 31, 2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 31-2022, being a bylaw to allow Turk Road to be load restriction free all year round from the Shelter Valley Pit to the boundary between the corporation of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman and the corporation of the Township of Crammy, be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. Mover? Councillor Phil, second, Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Okay, item 16. Are there any announcements or notices of motions? And Councillor Booth, we start with you.
If they're planning related, no, nothing at this time.
Do you have anything else? Because we missed last week.
Just two things then quickly. Last week on Wednesday, February the 16th, Mike and myself attended the Grafton Water Committee meeting. And at that time, we reviewed the 2021 final budget numbers coming in, and also discussed with Nicole, who is going to work with Lucy on presenting the 2022 budget. So it just gives the new treasurer some time to get up to speed, and the next meeting, hopefully we'll be able to discuss more about that.
Good.
And also on February the 17th, I attended the GRCA meeting. They held their AGM meeting on that day, and the new chair was voted in, which is Mark Lovshin from Hamilton Township. And that's it.
Okay, thanks. Councillor
Uh, Not really, other than thanking everybody for this.
Hogg? Okay,
Thank you.
I don't have anything for this meeting. Deputy Mayor Gibson?
I don't have anything, but I did want to have a shout out to all the public works and our other staff. The last couple of weeks with weather and road condition have been really challenging, especially in our rural areas. And I think we've had great response by public works staff. And so I think just a little recognition to them for, those long hours and those probably late nights and early mornings.
Thank you. No doubt. They were out quite a while. Councillor Phillip? Where's, oh.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. So item 17 is the approval of the confirming bylaw. Bylaw number 32-2022. being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal planning meeting of Thursday, February 24th, 2022. Have a mover, please. Oh, wait a minute. Be read and deemed to be passed this 24th day of February 2022. I was reading the top one. Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Sir Hogg, all in favor? Carried. And motion to adjourn at 11:45 a.m. Mover? Councillor Phillips, second by Deputy Mayor Gibson.
That was a lot of hands.
You're in the race. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, everybody. See you for sure next Thursday,
Okay,
the 3rd.
bye now.
Bye-bye.